I want to make sure we get to everybody. And I know Joseph is new to the channel. So welcome, Josef Stetter. And I can see from the tagline underneath you, you're a career transitions guru. Yeah, maybe you can take the you're on mute. Maybe you can take the next 15 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. And thank you again for the opportunity,
Great.
Dr. Jasmine. And it's an honor to be here on USA Global TV and Radio. And congratulations on the 1-year anniversary. So I'll start with the fact that I switched careers 9 times and jobs 18 times. And so I had to go through the trials of tribulations of trying to prove to employers that I have transferable skills and that what I know is relevant. I then got into recruiting, and I recruited for global companies like Deloitte & Touche, Tata Consulting Services, Apotex Pharmaceutical, and I've been in generalist recruiting for nearly 20 years. Along the way, I've kind of realized that most people that look for a job are making the same mistakes over and over again. And so when I hear people saying, I've sent out hundreds, if not thousands of resumes, I kind of look at them and go, your resume sucks and you don't know how to look for a job. And then I started writing books. So I wrote 10, 11 books. This is one of my first books. So it's fading out through the background. And I'll try to put it in front of me. It's called Congratulations, You're Hired. There's a Canadian version and an American version. And my purpose in life is to help people understand that, you can get hired faster and easier if you understand the right systems, the right tools, the right tricks, the right tips, etc. And I've had the honor and the pleasure of helping over 11,000 people so far. The fastest I found over 25 people a job is 2 days. And on average, I find anybody employment in any field in under 3 months with a 90% plus success rate. And so what I've realized is that I need to reprogram how people experience looking for a job. So the majority of the population, especially in North America, looks for a job on Indeed. Indeed is actually one of the worst places to look for a job because it has less than a 5% success rate. Now, there's a few reasons for that. Number one, if you post your resume on Indeed, let's say in October, and we're now January 15th, you're probably on page 5,000. Nobody sees your resume unless you know the tricks. Now, most job postings in North America say, don't call us, we'll call you. And most people will wait and wait and wait and never hear back. But simple little trick, call them and say, your battery just died and you're not sure if the application went through. Can HR check? The moment that they check, you now become number one. One job posting on Indeed will get between 350 and 5,000 applicants. Most employers will look at the first 100, figuring that they'll probably get somebody decent out of the first 100. So if you're 101, you're out of luck. But if you call and say, my internet just crashed, or I never got a confirmation that my application went through, can you please check? You're now number one on the list. Not only are you number one, but you have HR on the line. You have 2 minutes to kind of give your elevator pitch that says who you are and what results you produce. And then find out when they're starting to interview for the role. And if you're not one of the people selected, you can ask permission to get feedback on your resume so that you have a better chance next time. And what I've realized is that I've kind of created a system where I don't say, yes, do this, do this. I actually say, here's a mistake. So for example, on resumes, the 5 cardinal sins that most people commit on their resume, number one, they use Times New Roman, Arial, or Calibri as a font. Why? Because those are the 3 most popular fonts by default on Microsoft Word. Number 2, they use the black circles or dots, squares, or hyphens as their bullet points, because those are the most obvious and common ones, right? Number 3, they have an area called skills or career background where they say that they have 20 years of experience, and they fill the resume with fluffy words like hardworking, dedicated, committed, team player with excellent communication skills and team building or interpersonal skills. in 20 years of recruiting, I've very rarely looked for a resume that was hardworking, dedicated, committed, and team player, because everybody says that. I've met very few people that say, listen, I'm lazy, I will show up late, none of my work will be any good, and I really hate people, please hire me. Not unless you're related to them or having an affair with them can you get away with that. And so I want to kind of peel the layer of the onion and help. The statistics right now say that prior to the pandemic, there was 45 million people in North America that were unemployed. There were 45 million people that were severely underemployed, meaning have a university or college degree, but work at McDonald's. And then there's close to 30 million people going through some sort of education or retraining. That's a target market of 130 million people. And Indeed, being the largest job board out there, brags that they have only 44 million users. That means there's 100 million people that don't know. So similarly, get rid of this fluffy stuff on your resume. The next biggest mistake, and especially now with the pandemic, is more of an issue, is that people write a chronological and functional resume. And what happens if they take a temporary job, let's say at Dunkin' Donuts, because they need to pay the bills and they're being responsible, but they've worked as a mechanical engineer, nobody will look at them as a mechanical engineer because all they see is Dunkin' Donuts. So by creating a semi-functional resume that highlights their mechanical engineering or engineering background first, they're more likely to be taken seriously for it. And the biggest mistake of them all is that people list their duties and responsibility. So a lot of people, like, for example, I always use these two examples. If you need to hire a receptionist for your business and someone comes to you and says, I know how to answer the phone, I hope that you as the interviewer look at them in shock and go, really? A receptionist that knows how to answer the phone? I did not know that. Because unless they live in an igloo, a cave, or a Mennonite, chances are everyone on earth knows how to press the green button and go, hello, how can I help you? However, if a receptionist can quantify the results by saying, in my last job, I answered 60 calls a day with 12 different lines, I can measure whether 60 calls a day meets what my company needs versus I know how to answer the phone. And this is a massive gap that most people don't understand. And this is why even if they get an interview, they're left wondering why they're not getting hired, right? I can tell you, because I've switched careers so many times, I'm an excellent salesperson. I've done B2B, B2C, account management, relationship building, lead generation. I've worked, retail sales. I've done door-to-door. I've done street sales. I've done recruiting sales. I've done education sales, et cetera, et cetera. Great. I've babbled a lot of words, but I haven't told you whether or not I know how to sell. However, if I give you an example that said I worked for a private college that before I joined generated $530,000 in sales for the year. In 1 month, I was able to generate $860,000 in sales for them. Your reaction should be, wow, that's a lot of sales. And if you want to check that I know how to sell, you would ask me, how did I do that? Most people do not quantify how great they are. Now, what I found interesting is that both Amina and Tracy talked about making it about them, not you. This is something that is one of the first things I teach candidates. When you're applying for a job, it's never about you. It's about them. Because let's say writing on your resume that you're looking for a challenging position is redundant or pointless because of the fact that a company or your definition of challenging might be very different than the company's. So you need to give your answers related to them. This is also where networking, most people go wrong, where they have this mindset of quantity over quality. And people go to a networking event and just go collect business cards. They don't even know who they're talking to. And I've had this happen to me lots of times where people go, oh, you sound important. Can I have your business card? And then they email me the next day, go, yeah, can I have a job? Here's my resume. I'm like, who are you? What are you? So there are certain things that when I teach people how to find a job, I say, okay, brand yourself. So my favorite color, purple. This is one of my favorite watches. I wear and show this conversation. Why? Because when I send a follow-up email, I say, I'm the guy with the purple shirt, or I'm the guy with the watch. Usually that will trigger an emotion or connection, and there's more likely to have follow-up or conversation. So I focused and dedicated my life basically to helping people land their dream job now. And I also am a corporate culturalist, where I help organizations hire the right people and keep them. That's my 2 cents and my passion in giving back to this world. Any questions?
No, no questions, but I have a similar sort of scenario. You were talking earlier on about pumping yourself up to the top of the line. About 20 years ago, they used to have fax machines, and a friend of mine came to me and said, oh my God, I forgot to send my CV in for this job, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, when's the deadline? And she went, in about 2 hours. So I said, right, give me the CV. I faxed it there straight over. So when within the last 20 minutes, she was bang on the top of the pile. And she rang me an hour later saying, I got the job. So
Yeah,
thinking outside the box, it's just, yeah. So some people, it's common sense, but you know, I remember back in the day when I was on benefits and going to all the job workshops that they do, and it's BS. As I say, the first thing they do is they send you to Indeed, or the government over here did their own version that, you know, they tried to say, oh, we'll have our own job network, and they launched it, and I think it crashed within about 3 months because nobody really thought it up. So there is a big market, and you've got to make yourself stand out, you know, and think a little bit differently of how can I get in front of that person, especially with deadlines. Utilize today's technology.
If I can just piggyback on that, Big Scott, you're absolutely right. We've become a generation that common sense has become less and less common.
Yeah.
And we've kind of resorted to, this is the easiest. You know, I have stories where, for example, a friend of mine graduated from mechanical engineering, applied for jobs, nobody responded. So he printed about 25 copies of his resume, picked 25 companies that he wants to go, showed up at 9 a.m. to reception, said, I'd like to speak to the director. Receptionist was like, do you have an appointment? He's like, no. She's like, well, he's busy all day. And he told her he'll wait. And he waited there till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Finally, the director came out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and said, what do you want? And he said, I'm a new graduate. I know you're not hiring, but I wanted to introduce you in person. Here's some of the projects I did in school. And I want you to know who I am because I'm really interested in working here. Within 3 minutes, he basically got hired. And
Amazing.
not enough people do this. And if you have ever read Think and Grow Rich, you know, being proactive is a big part of the stories in Think and Grow Rich. And doing that little extra to stand out. And so my purpose is to try and help people understand that, you know, there's a lot of ways that you can get attention. If you ever watched the movie Legally Blonde, Elle Wood's resume when she applies to Harvard and to the internship is pink and scented. And everybody in the hiring committee goes, it's pink and it's scented, but they remember it. And
Exactly.
I'm not saying you need to have a pink scented resume every single time, but there's little things you can do.
Yeah, I got a similar, different scenario, but I get so much music sent to me, and I've got one that I still keep now. That it was from a female artist, and she'd hand drawn the cover, she'd wrapped it, put a bow on it with a little letter. So then when I went to all my mail, I got all this brown mail and whatever, and then there was this lovely, beautiful bank straight away, and a little personal note inside it. Do you know what I mean? And it's little things like that that stand out forever. Do you know what I mean? So, and again, if there's any musicians and that listening, be creative, be different. There's so many social platforms out there. As I was saying earlier on, there's 100,000 tracks being uploaded every single day. So you need to differentiate yourself. And the only difference between you and a mainstream artist making hits is £1 million in funding or marketing. So use your own marketing. There's so much technology today, you know, use metadata fields and stuff like that. I do little workshops and stuff on that. So if you ever want to book up and do a one-on-one on how to label your music and get out there and be independent, you know, it's plausible, but think outside the box. I still have that copy. I still have that CD now. In fact, I could probably grab it. It's probably just up on the shelf by there. You know?
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Big Scott. We do have a question for you from Russell Deasley over on YouTube. Thank you for joining us today. What are your top CV tips, Josef?
Okay, so number one, add a little bit of personality to your CV, just like Scott said. So add a little bit of color, let's say in your headings, or change the font so it's not cookie cutter, right? Break the black and white there. Focus more on the results or the problems that you solved rather than your duties and your skills. Because if I use any profession, like an accountant, every accountant on earth should know how to make financial statements. And if you don't, why are you an accountant? But tell me kind of what you produce. So what kind of files did you handle? Like what problems did you solve? Did you make money? Did you save money? Did you increase efficiency? Those are the things that everybody assumes they're going to do in the interview, and they don't. The other thing is you should optimize your job search by doing about 15% online. And you should actually research job boards that are not Indeed, because some companies will go, everybody uses Indeed, but if you, let's say, use All-Star Jobs or Wow Jobs, which are smaller platforms, because you had to research them, we'll look at you there. Second, you should spend about 25% of your time using employment agencies and recruiters. Why? Because they already have relationships with companies that you might be wanting to work with. And generally speaking, most companies will hire a minimum of 4 recruiters to fill a position. So whoever presents first gets the commission. If all 4 recruiters are presented to this company, the same person, the company is more likely to interview. 25% of your time should be spent on LinkedIn and other social media, because nowadays most companies have a Facebook fan page, have a Twitter account, have an Instagram account. And so if you participate and give insights to some of the things that they post, they will start tracking who you are, and they will reach out to you. 25% should be networking, referrals. And there's a wide variety of places that you can network, such as the Project Management Institute, Chamber of Commerce, or Board of Trades, because usually executives go to those events. And then the last part of it, as Big Scott said, is outside the box, taking initiative, doing something different, like sending a singing telegram with your resume, finding out what newspaper the executive reads, wait at 5:30 a.m. before the newspaper gets delivered, and then put your resume in every section of the newspaper to the executive that's going to read that newspaper, for example. But on your resume, add results. If your most recent job does not have anything to do with your current job or the job that you're applying for, do not put it first. Put it lower down on your resume. And a little creativity.
Great tips there. Thank you so
Great.
much. We have your banner showing, but how can people get in touch with you for more tips and to partner with you?
So I'm on most of the social media. My name is Josef Stetter, as in the kind of below me there. So I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm recently on TikTok. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So there's lots of places where you can find me. And my book is called Congratulations, You're Hired. It was easier thought. That's one of them. I've written 10 other books on the same or similar subject matter.
Woo, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It's outstanding. Really well done. And your books are over on Amazon?
On Amazon, yes. And on Smashwords and a few other platforms if you're using the reader versions of it.
Really excited for you. That's outstanding. And thanks for coming to our platform.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. So nice to meet you and to hear about all of the value that you're putting out into the world. Russell writes, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. Good advice indeed. Absolutely.